I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. I would like to open the 2024 annual meeting of the Association of BellTel Retirees. Our organization was formed in 1996 as 28 years of working to assist retirees and protect their hard-earned benefits. Quite an accomplishment. Many of you probably remember Pam Harrison, who was our secretary for many years and opened these meetings. Pam retired earlier this year to work with her husband Joe on many of their other endeavors. So I'm here to do my best to fulfill her role. By a quick way of background, I have been with the association since 2010. Most of my telecom experience was with Bell, Pennsylvania and Bell Atlantic. So let's move to our first official business, and that is to introduce the 2024 candidates for the board of directors. First, obviously, we have the chairman, Tommy Steed. Then Chief Financial Officer, Frank Bruzek. Treasurer is Una Kelly. Assistant Treasurer, Tim McManus, and I'm Secretary. Director at Large is Tom Butler, and Director at Large also is Laura Whitlock. So there's a slate of candidates who will be working with you. Many of you may have seen that recently we had a survey that was sent out asking members some of their thoughts and what their needs were. I was impressed that over 1,000 people responded to that. And in addition to that, many of you submitted that you'd be willing to put in more time and be volunteers. You'll hear more about that later, but I think we'll be able to definitely use your help. I'm going to turn the podium now over to our chairman, Tommy Steed.
I'm Thomas Steed. I'm the chairman of the Association of BellTel Retirees, and welcome to our 2024 annual meeting. AT&T petitioning California to end landline service in that state. This is big, because this will lead to a domino effect across the other 49 states. Now, the 56,000 pensions spun off in March. Verizon Risk Transfer is a $5.9 billion deal with Prudential Financial Incorporated and Reassurance Group of America, RGA. Hear more about this issue in greater detail from our secretary, Donald Kaufman. Donald's very versed on this as he represented Bell of Pennsylvania's pension plan in Washington, D.C. under the old Bell system. So he's very fluent on this matter. We had over 1,000 members respond to our surveys in a few days. And 65% responded that pension de-risking was one of the most main issues on their minds. 64% expressed concern about affordability of healthcare premiums for members and their spouses. Almost 81% are concerned about the reliability and the stability of group annuity life insurances, and private equity firms now managing over $300 billion in de-risked retirees' pension assets across America. Every industry, every corporation, somewhere in America has transferred their retirees to state, from under federal protection to state insurance protections, which they're basically minimum. We remain steadfast in our commitment to helping our members, retirees, and still active employees in the issues that affect them. 2024 proxy introduction with full report is to come by Frank Bruzak. Verizon accepted our lead cable proxy and resubmission of our executive clawback policy. At the end, the Security Exchange Commission said this is an extraordinary event and shareholders have the right to know. So those two items are going to be on the proxy ballot, number 6 and number 9. We have a great lineup of speakers to come. So I encourage you to watch from the start to finish. And next up is our Chief Financial Officer, Frank Bruzak.
Hello, my name is Frank Bruzak. I am the Chief Financial Officer for the association. For the next few moments, I would like to cover 2 things. 1, our financial process, and 2, how do we perform financially in 2023, and how do we look going forward? If we look at the first chart on the financial process, you'll see it is a 3-step process. It includes the financial team, of which I'm a member, along with Una Kelly, our treasurer, Tim McManus, our assistant treasurer, and Steph Baker, who's our executive assistant and staff manager. This team does all the day-to-day financial operations during the year. That includes audits, tax filings, billing, and also provides a list of projects along with expenses that are believed to be things that we should work on for the year. Once that list is compiled, it goes to the next step, which is to the Finance Committee. Now, this Finance Committee includes 2 very important members. It includes Tom Steed, our chairman, and Don Kaufman, who's our secretary and board member. This team reviews the list of projects along with associated expenses and determines what is believed to be the list of projects we should work on for the year to best, again, support our membership. Once that is compiled, it's submitted to the board, and every board member must approve that project list and expenses. When it is approved, then it is managed by the finance team throughout the year. However, every board meeting, the budget is reviewed, and every board meeting recommendations are made to make sure we're on track. So let me now move on to how we are performing in the next slide on our 2023 financials. In 2023, you'll notice that our revenues were $495,500. Unfortunately, those revenues were outpaced by expenses. Our expenses were $536,500. That gave us a net income loss of $40,800. More importantly, if you look at the 2020 to 2023 trend, our revenues have been declining 6% a year, and our expenses have been rising 5% a year. That is something we're getting very serious about. And now we think about what is causing all this. And if you look at the next slide, you'll see there's only 2 main reasons. The first is member contributions are down by 16% since 2020. Revenues are our lifeline, and 99% of those revenues are your contributions. Number 2 is inflation. As you know, we've all been affected by inflation in our daily lives since 2020. We hope at some point the economy will get back to some normalcy, but until then, as you can see, we at the association have been managing a very strict expense level, and we've been trying to control all costs, including printing costs, travel costs, and even meeting costs like this meeting itself. So with that, the whole group is trying to focus on what should we do? How do we get back to a financial stability? If you look at the next chart, you'll see we are focusing on 3 things. First is to continue to work on projects that we believe are most important to you within a certain budget level. That is the primary. Secondly, we're trying to increase our membership base. And we're doing that through several means. One is to increase our email and mail lists. And also, we're trying to get into every possible media way of communicating to our membership and others. And that's through Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and others. Finally, we're going to maintain a strict expense budget level managed by all of us. So that's kind of what we're working on. But there's one last thing I would like to leave you with, and that is the most important thing to all of us is that this is a partnership between you, our members, and the association. We've been successful for 27 years and want to continue that success, but it takes finances. But I want to especially thank all our members because in 2023, we had a very successful fall donation appeal campaign. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But it doesn't take a CFO to understand that it takes revenues to be able to have a successful 2024. So with that, please give what you can. And there's one other thing you can do for us. Please spread the word about us. Get people to know us and all the good things we do. And now I turn it over to Laura Whitlock to discuss planned giving.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Whitlock, and I am the newest director of the Association of BellTel Retirees. I was formerly part of the Telecom Pioneers, where I served as the executive director. And now I am not in that role, but I am sure happy to serve the community of BellTel retirees in this way. I'm really honored to discuss a powerful opportunity today that not only benefits you, but will enable you to make a meaningful impact in the lives of others. Today, we're going to talk about the Qualified Charitable Distribution, also known as QCD, and how it can serve as a pathway for you to contribute to qualified charities such as the Association of BellTel Retirees. Let's talk about what a Qualified Charitable Distribution is. It allows individuals to donate funds from their IRA account when they reach age 70 and a half. And you can do it directly to eligible charities without incurring taxes on the distribution. This means that you can make a charitable contribution while reducing your taxable income, providing a double benefit for both you and the charity. So why would you want to do such a thing? Well, there are tax advantages. By using a QCD, you can lower your taxable income, potentially reducing your tax burden and maximizing the impact of your charitable contributions. Plus, it is simple and convenient. All you have to do is tell the custodian of your IRA to distribute the 70 and a half donation directly to the Association of BellTel Retirees. And then you don't have to, there's no more paperwork or tax reporting. And finally, you are supporting very meaningful causes, not just if you are donating to the association, but also to any other charities you might choose to include in your qualified charitable distributions. And so here's how you do it. You talk to your financial advisor first and foremost, and talk to them about how this might fit into your overall financial and retirement scheme. And then once you do that, you talk to your IRA custodian and ask them to designate us, the Association of BellTel Retirees, or another charity as the qualified charity. And then you ask them to make a direct distribution. And finally, if you can spread the word, tell your fellow retirees or your friends or employees that you used to work with about the benefits, that can really have a cascading event benefit for all of the charities involved. And just keep in mind that the maximum amount that you can contribute to a charity from your IRA is $105,000 for 2024. Every contribution you make, no matter what the size, is playing a crucial role in supporting the mission of the Association of BellTel Retirees. And our mission is, as you know, to advocate for the rights and well-being of retirees, So your generosity enables us to continue providing these resources, the advocacy efforts, and community support for all members. So in conclusion, I just really urge you to consider harnessing the power of a qualified charitable distribution as a strategic and tax-efficient way to support charitable causes, especially our beloved Association of BellTel Retirees. Together, we can sincerely make a lasting impact and uphold the spirit of giving that defines our community. Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Frank Bruzak, and he is going to talk about the 2024 proxy measures. Frank, take it away.
You may recall last year we proposed a clawback proxy that received a share owner support level of about 38%. Executives can leave the company with significant monetary and stock rewards. This proposal asks that these rewards be returned when the executive actively engaged in conduct that harmed the company reputationally and financially. We believe Verizon's current policy is too vague. Their published policy does not address specific situations that would apply. One such situation would be when the executive lacks oversight or makes poor decision-making that affects Verizon's finances, reputation, or causes other significant company harm. And where does it state that the share owners will receive full disclosure? Simply stated, our clawback proxy is requiring of executives, if you don't earn it, please return it. Our hope is to receive a majority vote at Verizon's May 9th, 2024 shareholders meeting. If you are a Verizon shareholder, we urge you to please vote in favor of this proxy. Our recent spring newsletter highlights our new lead cable proxy that we are proposing for approval at Verizon's 2024 shareholders meeting. Some of us, including myself, remember the days when our outside cable maintenance splicers had to repair buried or aerial lead sheath cables. Lead sheath cables were installed between 1880 and 1950. When I was a director in operations in the Philadelphia area in the 1980s, we had a lead cable removal program. We removed cables like this one I am holding. I'm sure some of you remember this cable and may be familiar to you. 40 years later, from that removal effort, there are still thousands of abandoned miles of lead cables on poles and in the ground across our whole nation. AT&T estimates nearly 200,000 buried in conduit or aerial cables. Verizon has about 500,000. On July 9, 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that AT&T, Verizon, and other telecom giants have left behind a sprawling network of cables covered by toxic lead that stretches across the United States. The article reported that the lead degrades. It is ending up in places where America lives, works, and plays. Verizon, however, has stated that lead sheath cables makes up only a small percentage of the miles of the telephone cables. But this estimate has been challenged. A few days after that Wall Street Journal article, Senator Edward Markey from Massachusetts wrote to the United States Telecom Association demanding answers to the questions raised by the journal. Senator Markey stated that the telecommunications companies responsible for these phone lines must act swiftly and responsibly to ensure the mitigation of any environmental and public health risks. He also quoted, "This is a corporate irresponsibility of the worst kind. The members of the U.S. Telecom that are responsible for these lead sheath cables have a duty, both civil and legal. They need to ensure that they do not put Americans in harm's way." Senator Markey requested that the telecom companies answer the following questions. 1. Do the companies know the locations and mileage of lead sheath cables that they own for which they are responsible? 2. Why have the companies that knew about these cables and the potential exposure risks failed to monitor and act upon them? And 3. What plans do the companies have to address the environmental and public health issues posed by these cables? And the companies, he wants to commit to the following: testing, remediation, warning communities of the potential hazards these cables pose, and guaranteeing medical treatment and compensation to anyone harmed by lead poisoning caused by these cables. Now, the EPA has also sent letters to the companies requiring technical reports related to the company's testing and sampling. The EPA is coordinating closely with the Justice Department, whose Southern District of New York is investigating whether telecom companies had knowledge of the potential risk to their workers and the future environmental impacts that they left behind with these lead cables. The EPA said the companies had submitted limited data in response to the separate information requests from both them, the EPA, and the Justice Department. The EPA said it is working with the Justice Department and state agencies to access existing information about cable networks, and they want to determine whether further actions may be required to address risks from lead containing cables. AT&T, Verizon, and other telecom companies' response was that the following regulatory safety guidelines for workers dealing with lead. They say that they offer a robust training and resources, including blood lead testing for workers. They also say that they are cooperating with regulatory investigations. Now, the EPA has tested locations identified by the journal: West Orange, New Jersey, Southwest Pennsylvania, and Louisiana. The EPA has also proposed toughening the safety regulations for lead in soil where children play, and the EPA is expected to announce some new guidance. The EPA has also tested locations outside from many other states that were involved in cable remediation. The EPA ordered AT&T and Verizon to do testing in all those identified locations and determine the possible environmental risks and health risks. Our association always wants Verizon to be a successful company. All actions our association takes against Verizon are in pursuit of protecting all our retirees' hard-earned pension benefits, including their health. We are also concerned about share owners, and we are also concerned about present and future environmental effects. As a result, we have introduced this new proxy to present at this year's Verizon share owners meeting. Now, Verizon has argued to the SEC that this proxy be denied because we were engaging in their ordinary business. Well, our legal team sent a rebuttal and won. The SEC supports our proxy initiative. The SEC agreed with us that our proxy should be admitted. So, in conclusion, our proxy only asks Verizon to just be transparent and proactive on this issue. We are asking for an assessment of all potential sources of liability related to abandoned cables. We are asking for a full mapping of all locations impacted and an estimate of remediation costs. And finally, we're asking for a cost-effective prioritization of sites that pose the most health risk. So, when your ballot comes, please vote yes. And if you know anyone else that you could recommend to vote yes that have a vote, please do so. I now turn it over to Don Kaufman to discuss Verizon's 2024 de-risking of pensions and pension risk transfers.
Well, Verizon has done it again. They just de-risked 56,000 more retirees. Well, I was included in the 2012 spinoff, so I know what you've gone through. Combining the two, Verizon has spent over $13 billion to eliminate 97,000 retirees from their pension plans. They're part of a larger effort. Since 2012, U.S. corporations have spent over $300 billion to shed retirees. That was $300 billion. Why? Well, you probably know some of this, but let me just recap. One, it eliminates the volatility in managing their pension funds, volatility due to the market fluctuations. It eliminates their obligation to continue funding pensions. It reduces their oversight on the amount of reserves they must hold in order to meet their financial responsibilities. ERISA created a pension plan called, and I always get this mixed up, the PBG, the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, PBGC, as a safety net to protect pensioners if the corporations file for bankruptcy. Well, corporations like Verizon, who are healthy, pay for that PBC based on the number of people in their pension plans. Another incentive to get retirees off the pension rolls. Now, that organization is a real assist. Back around 2003, I spoke with some retirees from Bethlehem Steel. Bethlehem Steel went bankrupt. They lost their pension. Yes, they were then getting some money from the PBGC, but it was maybe 60 to 70%, but it was better than nothing. So when ERISA goes away, that goes away for a retiree. ERISA no longer applies once a pension is de-risked. Gone are regular disclosures about funding, performance, and reporting on the provider's financial strength. Are they able to meet their obligations? Gone is the PBGC. It is replaced by individual state patchwork of guarantee association. And gone is your pension benefits protection from creditors, which ERISA provides. So a portion of our efforts over the years have been to get states to provide creditor protection and develop uniform lifetime coverage to guard against bankruptcy. Protection from individual states varies widely. Could be from 100,000 to 300,000, and it's usually capped, so it is not a lifetime protection. In the last several years, in 2022 and 2023, Eddie Stone, who's done a lot of our lobbying work, has worked with the Department of Labor Advisory Council to pass Secure Act 2.0. Major effort of that is to require the Department of Labor to seriously evaluate the negative impacts of de-risking. And we're looking for that letter to come out. I know back in 2022, I was working with Eddie on some of this, and I contacted two of my congressional senators. I currently live in South Carolina with my wife, so my senators were Graham and Scott, which you probably know. And no, I didn't talk to them, but I was able to talk to their legislative directors and secured their agreement to work with us, and Secure Act 2.0 was passed. So that's a helpful thing. Some of you folks, if you're volunteering, you might be able to assist in those kind of efforts. Because as you probably all know, legislators need a little nudge every now and then, except when it comes to their own pay raises. So Eddie has also asked me, as a retiree with a de-risked pension, to provide testimony to that DOJ ERISA Advisory Council, which I did last summer. In English, basically, I said, put the teeth back into ERISA. As retirees, we need it. The overall major theme of all of our efforts there, that we need ERISA and PBGC protections to be improved and strengthened to protect retirees. Even more unsettling in recent trends of insurance groups is their transfer of pensions, assets, and liabilities to offshore subsidiaries. With these subs, there is little, if any, reporting of results. An overview of their ability to meet their long-term obligation is non-existent. Also, I recently wrote an editorial that was published in Next Avenue and Market Watch to highlight this issue. So that's wanted to catch you up on those things. Probably my time now to turn the podium over to Eddie Stone. For anyone unfamiliar with Eddie, we have used Eddie for many years, who's worked with our lobbying efforts fabulously. He's a lawyer with extensive knowledge and experience in insurance issues. Also, he is founder and executive director of the Retirees for Justice, our lobbying arm. So Eddie, take it away.
Good morning. For those of you who are new to these annual meetings, my name is Edward Stone, and I am special counsel to the Association of BellTel Retirees, and I am also the executive director for Retirees for Justice. As a 501c4 advocacy organization that I created in partnership with the Association of BellTel Retirees. Retirees for Justice is responsible for drafting state and federal legislation and doing all things related to advocating for retiree rights. One of our key focuses in recent years, and one that is certainly timely today, are issues related to pension de-risking, also known as pension risk transfer, and sometimes affectionately referred to as pension stripping. From the retiree perspective, it looks more and more that pensions are being stripped away from retirees. So I'm going to give you a high-level overview of some of the things that we're doing. And of course, we always invite feedback, so feel free to reach out through the Association of BellTel Retirees, and I'm be certain to follow up with any information that you might need. I am proud to have been involved with the Association of BellTel Retirees for over a decade now. We started back just prior to the 2012 transaction with Verizon, when 41,000 Verizon retirees got kicked out of the pension plan and were placed into an annuity contract with Prudential. Recently, it was just announced that Verizon was going to do another pension risk transfer deal, this time with two different annuity providers. One, again, Prudential, or the Prudential Insurance Company of America, to be specific, and the other, a company called RGA, which is a US-based reinsurer. And this is a relatively newly announced transaction, and it's something that I'm looking at right now very closely, both to analyze the structure of the transaction and to identify any potential risks to retirees. This transaction impacts a number of union members, as opposed to the prior transaction, which did not. And this has gotten the attention of the Communication Workers of America, and I am collaborating with them as to strategy. So this is something that we'll continue to update the association on. At the federal level, I guess to take a step back, let's talk about what pension de-risking really is and what we can do about it. So first of all, pension de-risking is really anything that reduces a defined benefit plan liabilities. And that can take many, many forms. It could be a form of liability-driven investing. It can be a pension buy-in, where the pension plan purchases an annuity contract. And it can also be what's known as a pension buyout or lift-out, where retirees get kicked out of the plan and they get placed into an insurance annuity. And that's what we're mostly going to cover today. Because in those situations, retirees lose all of the uniform protections that were intended by Congress under a federal law known as ERISA, and they default through no choice of their own to non-uniform state laws. And there are a number of consequences to that. I think kind of most importantly, retirees lose ready access to the federal courts. Under ERISA, there are strict fiduciary standards about what folks can invest in, what plan fiduciaries can invest in. Retirees, as you probably are aware, get detailed annual financial disclosures of various different forms. There are predetermined minimum funding requirements, and creditor claims are protected, uniformly. In post de-risking, retirees default to non-uniform state law. Some states protect your annuity payments from creditor claims. Other states do not. And perhaps most importantly, retirees lose the backstop that's offered by the federally chartered Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation. And I'll go into a little bit about that and give you some actual numbers. So the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, it's a U.S. government agency that backstops private pensions. There are no tax dollars used to fund it. It's all funded by essentially premiums that are paid on a fixed and a variable basis. Fixed rate premiums are based on the number of plan participants. Variable rate premiums are determined based on the funded status of the plan, of any given plan. So the variable premium can go up the more underfunded a plan is, and that's to provide additional liquidity for the PBGC in the event that they have to take over a plan. What's really most important about PBGC protection is that they have safeguards built in where they'll put a plan on a watch list and they'll interact with plan fiduciaries to figure out how things are going and what they can do to improve the funded status of the plan. Those preliminary actions start when the plan is at about the 80% funded level. Interestingly, you can't offload pension liabilities if the plans are less than 80% funded. And in 2012, when Verizon offloaded 41,000 retirees, the plan was almost exactly at 80% funded. So this is obviously something that the plan fiduciaries look very carefully at. But what it's really important to understand, and the distinction that most people don't realize, is that PBGC benefits increase as a function of age. So depending on when a plan gets taken over, the annual benefit that a given plan participant will receive changes. So for example, at 65, the maximum benefit for an individual is $85,000, $295.40 a year for a straight life annuity, and $76,765 for a joint and 50% survivor annuity. These annuities provide less of a monthly benefit because they're based on two lives, both the pensioner and the pensioner's spouse. But while that number may seem similar to Guarantee Association coverage numbers, for an 75-year-old, that number increases to $259,000 for a straight life annuity and $233,000 for a joint and 50% survivor annuity. So they're really very different animals. And my view, having been involved in this field for quite some time now, is that Guarantee Association coverage is ill-suited for payout annuities. And again, the final word I'll leave you with is pension benefits under PBGC coverage increase annually as a function of your age, and the rates set by Congress annually. So contrasting that to guarantee association coverage is per individual per lifetime. And the range in coverage goes from 250,000 to 500,000. And that's again per individual per lifetime. And it's determined by the state of residence of the individual pensioner at the time of impairment or insolvency of the insurance company. So if you move from one state to another, the amount of benefit that you receive can go up or down. And that's an important consideration for retirees who are in payout status. If there were to be a large insolvency, say the size of a company like Prudential, it would tax the Guarantee Association safety net. There has never been a liquidation of an insurance company the size of a Prudential in the history of our country. The last big insolvency that I was intimately involved in involved the Executive Life Insurance companies. Executive Life went into conservation in California in 1991, and it wasn't until 2013 that the liquidation of Executive Life Insurance Company of New York was complete. And after that liquidation, it was in rehabilitation prior to liquidation, but after that liquidation, 920 million in benefits were cut. And that was based on how many people were over the cap, and over the cap means over the Guarantee Association cap in effect in any given state. So, should retirees be concerned about this pension de-risking phenomenon? I would say absolutely. I don't think people should panic because your pensions aren't in any immediate danger. But since 2012, when I started following this closely, there's been more than 300 billion in pension liabilities transferred to insurance companies. And insurance companies under the McCarran-Ferguson Act are regulated at the state level. So it's very hard to get a real picture about how well suited these insurance companies are when it comes to their liabilities for this pension business, which is a relatively new phenomenon, at least with respect to the pension lift-outs that started really in earnest in 2012. Prior to 2012, there were some, but they were small in size, typically less than $1 billion a year. In 2012, GM did a $25 billion deal, and Verizon did a deal that cost the plan approximately $8.4 billion. So it's important to know your pensions are in no immediate danger. Life insurance companies like Prudential have hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. The real question is, do they have enough in assets to match the liabilities they've taken on in all these pension risk transfer deals? That's much less certain than their ability to make good on their needs over the next several years. But your pension payments were intended to last your entire lifetime, and in some instances, the lifetimes of your spouses. So it's very important that the insurance company that's chosen for these transactions is a good one. And that's one of the issues we're looking at right now with Prudential. Is Prudential the right or safest available annuity provider, given everything that it has taken on and all the different types of transactions that it has been involved in over the past decade or so? And there are some real concerns there. The biggest concerns involve a heavy dependence on affiliated reinsurance. Those are reinsurance companies that are wholly owned by Prudential, located in the state of Arizona, and also more recently in Bermuda, where Prudential just formed a new or invested in a reinsurer in Bermuda and just transferred $10 billion in structured settlement annuities into that new reinsurer. Structured settlement annuities are very similar to pension risk transfer annuities because they are essentially fixed lifetime payouts. I mean, they're payouts that are fixed for a period of time, but they contain a life contingent portion, just like pension annuities. So what can be done by retirees, and what is it that we can do to kind of make this process more transparent, force insurance companies to be more accountable? Well, a couple of things. One, we can amend state laws to replace the protections that were lost when the risk transfer deal took place with reasonably equivalent protections under state law. I have, on behalf of Retirees for Justice, drafted an amendment to ERISA that's designed to make pension risk transfer deals more transparent, force insurance companies to be more accountable, and also focus on the choice, the fiduciary duty that the defined benefit plan fiduciary has when they choose safest available annuity provider. I provided testimony to the ERISA Advisory Council about an interpretive bulletin that addresses just this very issue. That's Interpretive Bulletin 95-1. Under the Secure Act 2.0, the Department of Labor was asked to report to Congress about whether or not they were going to make changes to that interpretive bulletin to spell out more of the detail that should be taken into consideration. That has not taken place as of yet, but as soon as it does, I'll make sure that the association knows all about it. But very clearly, what I've asked to do in an ERISA amendment is to clarify what steps the defined benefit plan fiduciary has to take in order to discharge its fiduciary duty. And that would involve making sure that the insurance company chosen was properly capitalized and didn't rely too heavily on affiliated transactions, offshore reinsurers, and the like. I also am looking to ask Congress to toll any statutes of limitations that might be relevant to a pension risk transfer deal. And this is a really important point. And tolling a statute of limitations means you stop it. It doesn't run until such time as every plan participant has been paid every pension benefit they were owed. I think this would be a real deterrent to people choosing the cheapest available insurance company as opposed to the safest available. And those amendments are currently pending and working through Congress. So that's a summary of kind of what I would like to see happen. It's very important for the association to remain active. And I'm very pleased with the partnership that I have with Retirees for Justice and the Association of BellTel Retirees. And I look forward to providing you with more updates at later dates. And should you need any more information, I can always be reached through the association. And with that, I conclude my remarks today.
As you approach those golden years, talk to a lawyer. Get a hold of a lawyer. Most of them will do a pro bono interview. That's really as simple as I can put it. Also, if you're a veteran, as you see, I got my American Legion hat on, there's a lot of benefits there that folks aren't using. Hospice care. If you're in hospice care and you're not in the VA and your Medicare runs out, you're talking at co-pays of over $400 a day. If you're not in the VA system, might be a good idea to get in there. As well as hospice care. God forbid you come down with a life-threatening disease like ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. It usually is a 100% disability at the VA. There is a 100% payout each month of almost $4,000. And when you pass, your spouse will get half of that. There is a ALS ward in the Kingsbridge VA hospital. In addition to that, we also have hospice care in the hospital, outside the hospital. Again, try to get in the VA system. That would help a great deal. Getting back to seeing an attorney, you have to do this. At least talk to them, see what they have to say. It will open your eyes. It is a very, very important thing that you could do.
BellTel results pending and future initiatives. March 2024, Verizon 56,000 pensions de-risk, including mine, my like accident and sickness death benefit. Now they changed the name on it to pension death benefit. Same thing, okay? Verizon purchased single premium group annuity contract for 56,000 retirees and their beneficiaries, all of whom retired prior to January 1st, 2023. The third-party pension annuity transfer payments are scheduled to begin July 1st, 2024. Affect both union and management retirees. For the first time, union retirees. Verizon has now collectively expelled 97,000 defined benefit pensions from the safety of the company's pension umbrella for a total exceeding $14.3 billion. More than $300 billion in retirees' assets have been offloaded to insurance annuity providers and private equity investors since 2012 from a multitude of U.S. corporations, 300 billion. They're all piling on the gravy wagon, as far as I can see. Communications with Verizon, COLA benefits troubleshooting, why vital? In December 2023, I formally petitioned Verizon to grant 2024 pension cost of living adjustments, COLA. Response from Verizon was there will be no COLA increase, but it remains committed to maintaining current medical, dental, and life insurance benefits. So there was some good news in that. From our recent survey, one member commented it would be nice if you could get a cost of living, but it's very important to have the medical paid by Verizon. I mean, that is my personal concern. You know, my medical. Landline advocacy in California, AT&T. AT&T has petitioned the California Public Utilities Commission. There's five, well, there's a president and 4 commissioners, 5 on the board, to be relieved of its obligation to be carrier of last resort for copper landline service. Florida, Tennessee, and Illinois have seen similar petitions. If the California Public Utility Commission allows AT&T to renege, it could set a dangerous precedent for other telecom providers in other states looking to do the same thing, get out of the landline business. Landlines are lifelines, especially in rural communities and time of cellular outages. As seen the massive nationwide AT&T outage in February, we emailed and we wrote a letter to the 5 utility commissioners on February 20th, 2 days before the networks in Florida, Texas, Chicago area, and California failed. Entire networks failed, all right? Now, we're not weathermen, all right? But 2 days before this happened, we said, hey, look, this is why you need landlines. Verizon's pension de-risking and $100 million settlement with nearly 10,000 customers that claim Verizon deceived them by adding unfair and not adequately disclosed fees to their monthly wireless bills. You know, it's hard to feel secure in your pension when corporations are continuously spinning off pension liability to insurance annuity providers and private equity, you know, especially if it goes offshore beyond the United States regulatory reach. We're done, you know. So I'd like to mention Pamela Harrison's long service and retirement. Thank you, Pamela, for your dedication, decades of dedication to our association and your members and my members. We have nominated Pamela for board member emeritus. Includes me. Thank you for tuning in and support your association.